Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to guide you through this because honestly, we're tackling one of the most transformative concepts in all of business. Today, we're charting the exact journey from being an overworked, stressed out technician to becoming a true, liberated entrepreneur. We're going to break down the actual mechanics of building a business that doesn't just survive, but actively thrives without you having to be there. So let me ask you right out of the gate, do you own a business or do you just own a job? I know it's a bit of a harsh reality check, but think about it. If your business depends entirely on you being there every single day just to function, you don't actually own a business. You own a job. And usually it's the worst job in the world because you're working for an absolute lunatic, yourself. This is the painful, exhausting reality of founder burnout, and it's exactly what we're going to solve today. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the entrepreneurial seizure. Our guiding light for this explainer is Michael Gerber. You probably know him as the legendary business consultant and the author of the massive bestseller, The E-Myth Revisited. Having counseled literally tens of thousands of post-corporate entrepreneurs, Gerber noticed a highly predictable and frankly often tragic pattern that plays out in nearly every small business. He figured out that the root cause of most business failures isn't actually a lack of capital or market demand. It's a massive failure in judgment right at the starting line. That failure in judgment? It's what Gerber famously calls the entrepreneurial seizure. It's that intoxicating moment when a highly skilled technician, say a brilliant baker, a talented graphic designer, or an expert mechanic, decides they want to go work for themselves. And they make this fatal assumption. They assume that because they understand the technical work of the business, they inherently understand how to build a business that does that technical work. But guys, those are two entirely different things. The real tragedy here is that the technical work the founder once completely loved quickly mutates into a suffocating daily grind that they eventually come to despise. Moving on to Section 2, your 3 business personalities. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how our brains are actually split up. Ideally, a successful business owner would have their internal personalities perfectly balanced, but in reality, the typical small business owner is a whopping 70% technician, 20% manager, and a mere 10% entrepreneur. The doer completely dominates the visionary. And these 3 personalities are in a constant, brutal battle for control inside your head. The entrepreneur is your visionary. They live out in the future, dreaming up what-if scenarios and driving massive change. The manager, on the other hand, is pragmatic. They live in the past, craving order, planning, and systems, and they absolutely abhor change. And finally, the technician is the worker. They live entirely in the present moment, totally focused on the immediate task at hand. Because the technician makes up 70% of the owner's mindset, they almost always win this battle. And that chains the owner to the daily workload, completely stunting the company's growth. Which brings us to Section 3, the business life cycle trap. Just like people, every business goes through distinct life cycle phases. We start in infancy. This is the technician's absolute dream. The owner and the business are one and the same. The owner does literally everything. But eventually, the owner realizes they just can't keep up. This pushes the business into adolescence, triggered by what we call a crisis of help. The exhausted owner desperately hires people, but instead of properly delegating and training those people, the owner manages by abdication. They just dump the work on the new hires and walk away. Predictably, quality drops, the owner gets super frustrated, takes the work back, and ends up doing it all themselves again. And this illustrates the painful limits of the owner's comfort zone. When an adolescent business breaches this boundary without proper systems in place, disaster strikes. Basically, one of 3 things happens. First, the business might revert right back to infancy, getting small again until the owner just loses hope. Second, the business might go for broke, growing so fast without a solid foundation that it catastrophically self-destructs. Or third, the owner settles for adolescent survival, stubbornly working 80-hour weeks just to keep the doors open, totally consumed by the beast they built. So, how do we bypass this trap entirely? It's all about shifting your mindset. The technician perspective asks, what work has to be done today? They try to model the future based on their chaotic present. But the true entrepreneurial perspective asks, how must the business work? They start with a crystal clear vision of the finished business out in the future, and then they reverse engineer the present day to match that exact vision. They don't just see a place to go to work, they see a system that reliably produces results for the customer. All right, Section 4, the franchise prototype. To give you an idea of the massive ambition required here, consider Michael Gerber's advice during a lunch with author Tim Ferriss. Ferriss was writing his very first book, and Gerber looked at him and said, If you're going to write a book, write a freaking book. Don't hedge, don't think small, aimed for the absolute top. You have to bring this exact same massive, recalibrated ambition to your business model if you ever want to escape the daily grind. This ambition fuels what Gerber calls the turnkey revolution. And the core philosophy here is a total paradigm shift. It's the idea that the true product you are selling is not your commodity. It's not the pie or the graphic design or the plumbing service. The true product is the business itself. You need to treat your business like it's a perfectly packaged product sitting on a shelf competing with other businesses. It needs to be a flawless, completely predictable organism. So the absolutely crucial point is this: the system runs the business and the people run the system. To create a franchise prototype, you have to build a business that is entirely systems dependent, not people dependent. It should be designed so well that people with the lowest necessary level of skill can step right in, use your foolproof tools and systems, and achieve extraordinary, totally predictable results every single time. And finally, Section 5, working on your business. Actually building this business that works without you requires a continuous foundational cycle known as the business development process. And it's basically 3 steps. First is innovation, constantly asking, what is the absolute best way to do this from the customer's perspective? Second is quantification, measuring the impact of every single innovation against a baseline. If you change a process, did your profits go up? Did customer satisfaction rise? And third, which is the most important step, orchestration. This means eliminating discretion at the operating level. Once you find the perfect way to do something, you orchestrate it so it's done exactly that way, every single time, without exception. Let's see how this builds into a comprehensive 7-step roadmap. This is literally your blueprint for replacing yourself with a system. It starts internally with your primary aim, what you actually want out of your life. Then your strategic objective, what metrics must the business hit to serve that life? From there, you build an organizational strategy. Now, this is an org chart not based on the people you currently have, but the specific roles your future business needs. Then you define your management, people, marketing, and system strategies. You literally prototype every single position in your company from the bottom up, documenting the systems for each until you've engineered yourself entirely out of the tactical work. Now, I know what you're thinking. Writing massive operating manuals sounds absolutely terrifying, right? Well, there is a brilliant modern shortcut for this from agency scaling expert Josh Nilson called the camcorder method. Look, entrepreneurs are amazing at doing, but we're generally terrible at writing checklists. So just record yourself doing the task. Record your screen or set up a camera on your phone, then use an AI tool or hand that video over to a systems-oriented person on your team to extract a simple 5 to 6 step checklist. This makes creating standard operating procedures incredibly fast, and it gets your new hires immersed in your perfect process right away. We're going to wrap up this explainer with one final provocative question. Be totally honest with yourself. If you walked away from your business today, would it grow tomorrow? If the answer is no, it is absolutely time to embrace the turnkey revolution. Stop being the technician. Elevate yourself to the entrepreneur. Build your systems, document those processes, and finally create a business that works entirely without you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to apply these frameworks and start building your own franchise prototype today.